I had the honor of serving under General MacArthur, Solomon Islands in World War II, and I do not think that there is any doubt that history will record the strategy which he followed in the Pacific in bringing about the defeat of Japan under conditions which were adverse and which were fought with danger will be considered as one of the great military feat of arms in the history of our country. His record in the First War and in the Second War. His contribution in moving Japan into a strong democratic position in the days following its collapse are almost unprecedented. General MacArthur looks back on a long record, which day by day has been devoted to strengthening the United States and increasing its influence around the world. We are in his debt, and I think it most appropriate as he approaches the afternoon of this long life that we all pay him justified tribute.
Remarks of the President at a Democratic fundraising dinner from the National Guard Armory in Washington, D.C., January 20th, 1962.
Mr. Freeman, Mr. Bailey, Ms. McCluskey, Mr. Speaker, I first of all want to express, I know, on behalf of all of us, our great appreciation to Ms. Clooney, Ms. Remick, and Danny Thomas for coming from a far distance to help us tonight. I wish we could all have just applaud them. I want to also express my appreciation to President Truman. I must say it is nice to have a former president who speaks well of you, and we're glad to have him here tonight. His only request has been, since I've been president, to get his piano up from the cellar, and we've done that. And we're going to run on it. And I also want to express my appreciation, the appreciation of us all, to the Vice President for his tribute to Speaker Raven. I must say that the merger of Boston and Austin, as he said today, was really the last merger that the Attorney General has allowed, but it's been one of the most successful. And as a loyal and faithful friend, I think that we've worked together better than any president and vice presidential team in history, at least since Roosevelt and Truman. I spoke a year ago today to take the inaugural, and I'd like to paraphrase a couple of statements I made that day by saying that we observe tonight not a celebration of freedom, but a victory of party. We are sworn to pay off the same party debt our forebears ran up nearly a year and 3 months ago. Our deficit will not be paid off in the next 100 days, nor will it be paid off in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor perhaps even in our lifetime on this planet, but let us begin. Remembering that generosity is not a sign of weakness, and that ambassadors are always subject to Senate confirmation. For if the Democratic Party cannot be helped by the many who are poor, it cannot be saved by the few who are rich. So let us begin. I want to express our thanks to all of you for helping. What we are attempting to do tonight is to lay the groundwork for the congressional campaigns of 1962. And we realize, I think all the members of the House and Senate, that history is not with us, that in this century, only in 1934, during the periods of the great preeminence of the Democratic Party, did the party in power ever win seats, let alone hold its own. But we believe in 1962 that the Democratic Party, both at home and abroad, is best fitted to lead this country. And therefore, we start tonight on the campaigns of 1962. This is, though we like to think of ourselves as a young country, this is the oldest republic in the world. When the United States was founded, there was a king in France, and a czar in Russia, and an emperor in Peking. They have all been wiped away, but the United States has still survived. We are also members of the oldest political party on earth. And it is a source of satisfaction to me that when we attempt in this administration to rebuild our ties with Latin America, to strengthen our alliance for progress, we trod in the same steps that Franklin Roosevelt trod in nearly 25 or 30 years ago. And when we attempt this year to build more closely the Atlantic community, we trod in the same steps that President Truman trod in nearly 14 years ago when he developed the Marshall Plan and NATO. And when we stand with the United Nations against the desires of those who make themselves our adversaries and even our friends, we stand where Woodrow Wilson stood nearly 50 years ago. And when we make a great national effort to make sure that free men are not second in space, we move in the same direction that Thomas Jefferson moved in when he sent Lewis and Clark to the far reaches of this country during his term of office. I am proud to be a Democrat, and in my opinion, in November of 1962, any member of the House, the Senate, the state legislature, and the governor can stand with pride on the record of the Democratic Party. The governed is to choose, and the people of the United States, I believe, in this vital year, when we are faced with the greatest hazards that we have faced in our long history, should be faced with a choice. I do not believe there is room in the United States for two parties who believe in lying at anchor. The role of the Democratic Party, the reason it has outlived the federal party, the Whig party, and now holds responsibility in the executive branch and the House and the Senate, after this long history, has been because it has believed in moving out, in moving ahead, in starting on new areas, and bringing new programs here and abroad. That's the function of our party. We have no other function. And I believe in 1962, the Democratic Party should run as it has run in the past, as a progressive party, ready to defend its record, ready to recognize that in a changing and vital world, our party must move with it. So we come tonight in the beginning of a long campaign, and we ask your help, because what we start tonight, we believe can be finished in November. And I believe the interests of this country will be served by our party as it has on so many vital occasions in the past. And the fire from our efforts to light the world.
Remarks of the President at the Treasury Department Conference from the Sheraton Park Hotel in Washington, D.C., January 18, 1962.
Mr. Dillon, Mr. Fowler, Mr. Secretary, ladies and gentlemen. I came here this morning to express my thanks to all of you for coming to Washington, for participating in these meetings, and also for the effort that you are making to advance the economic interests of the United States by the work you're doing in promoting our Saving Bonds campaign. This is an effort that has been going on for a number of years, but I'm sure you realize, and it is our task to emphasize to the American people how important a contribution they can make to their country and also to their own personal welfare. In order to make these bonds attractive, we must also make our contribution here in the national government, in the financial and business community, in the labor community, in the agricultural community, in maintaining the vitality and integrity of these bonds and therefore of the American economy. And it is my opinion that if we each meet our responsibilities in our respective areas, that this can be done. As one of the contributions to maintaining the stability of the dollar and therefore the value of these bonds, we have presented, as you know, yesterday, a budget which is in balance, which will help us maintain here in this country a balance between outflow and inflow. I'm hopeful that this effort, which I feel can be reflected beneficially in our international balance of payments, will also be reflected in restraint by labor and management in the coming year. I said in my State of the Union address that it was our hope that wage increases would be tied strongly to productivity increases and the stability of the price level. My hope that business profits will be substantial and that it will be possible for the business communities to maintain a price level consistent with our national needs. This is not merely an exhortation. It is a necessity for all of us. We face difficult problems and we carry heavy burdens. It's necessary for this country to be competitive. It's necessary for us to increase our exports overseas. If we can increase our exports overseas by 5%, it would mean $1 billion in addition in our balance of payment problem and could almost end them. A 10% increase in our exports, if our import level was maintained at its present rate, could mean that our balance of payment problems had been defeated. And I do not think this is beyond any of us. If we can maintain, as we have been able to maintain really for the last 3 years, a general stability in our price level. In the last 12 months, as you know, our wholesale price index dropped. Consumer prices went up less than 1%. It is our belief that if management and labor attack their problems from the public interest and their own long-range interest, that it will be possible for us to maintain price stability for the coming year. And that if all those in the field of management and government can take every action that is possible to stimulate our exports, we can begin to get control of a serious problem that we face in the international flow and ebb of payments. We spend a large sum of money, $3 billion a year, in maintaining our defense forces abroad. We have to earn that money through a balance of trade in our favor. And therefore, this goes to the heart of our survival. The British, who have been affected, as you know, by a balance of payment problem, have had to consider withdrawing troops from vital areas in order to make their ends meet. We do not wish to do that. We wish to maintain our commitments everywhere. So that the matter which we are now discussing, stability of our price level, restraint by labor management and the other elements of our community, prudent judgment by our national government, a vigorous drive in the field of exports, a determination to make ourselves more than competitive, to increase our balance of trade, all represents a contribution which the citizen of this country who is active in these fields can make to the maintenance of freedom around the world. So this is all related to the work that you are now doing. Saving bonds, which you sell, help make the very complicated task of the Secretary of the Treasury easier. It provides a method of steering savings by our fellow citizens into these bonds. It eases some of the pressures on the inflationary scale. It represents an investment in the United States. And if we meet our responsibilities in the areas that I've described, it makes an investment which can have increasing value in the years to come. I want to express my thanks to all of you for the effort that you have made in this regard. A year ago, in taking over the responsibilities of this office, I emphasized the desirability of the contributions which all of us could make to our country. This task of saving bonds has lost the newness of novelty, but nevertheless, it is more important perhaps than it ever was. And therefore, though it may not be spectacular, it represents the kind of day-to-day work and contribution by you, which I think makes a measurable difference to our country. So on behalf of all of our citizens, I express my thanks to you.
The President's State of the Union Address to the 87th Session of Congress, from the House Chamber in the United States Capitol Building, Washington, D.C., January the 11th, 1962.
Mr. Vice President, my old colleagues from Massachusetts, and your new Speaker, John McCormick, members of the 87th Congress, ladies and gentlemen. This week, we begin anew our joint and separate effort to build the American future. But sadly, we build without a man who linked a long past with the present and looked strongly to the future. Mr. Sam Rayburn is gone. Neither this House nor the nation is the same without him. Members of the Congress, the Constitution makes us not rivals for power, but partners for progress. We are all trustees for the American people, custodians of the American heritage. It is my task to report the State of the Union. To improve it is the task of us all. In the past year, I have traveled not only across our own land, but to other lands, to the north and the south, and across the seas. And I have found, as I am sure you have in your travels, that people everywhere, in spite of occasional disappointments, look to us, not to our wealth or power, but to the splendor of our ideals. For our nation is commissioned by history to be either an observer of freedom's failure or the cause of its success. Our overriding obligation in the months ahead is to fulfill the world's hopes by fulfilling our own faith. That task must begin at home. For if we cannot fulfill our own ideals here, we cannot expect others to accept them. And when the youngest child alive today has grown to the cares of manhood, our position in the world will be determined, first of all, by what provisions we make today for his education, his health, his opportunities for a good home and a good job and a good life. At home, we began the year in the valley of recession. We completed it on the high road of recovery and growth. With the help of newly congressionally approved or administratively increased stimulants to our economy, the number of major surplus labor areas has declined from 101 to 60. Non-agricultural employment has increased by more than 1 million jobs, and the average factory work week has risen to well over 40 hours. At the year's end, the economy, which Mr. Khrushchev once called a stumbling horse, was racing to new records in consumer spending, labor income, and industrial production. We are gratified, but we are not satisfied. Too many unemployed are still looking for the blessings of our prosperity. As those who leave our schools and farms demand new jobs, automation takes old jobs away. To expand our growth and job opportunities, I urge on the Congress 3 measures. First, the Manpower Training and Development Act, to stop the waste of able-bodied men and women who want to work, but whose only skill has been replaced by a machine, or moved with a mill, or shut down with a mine. Second, the Youth Employment Opportunities Act, to help train and place not only the 1 million young Americans who are both out of school and out of work, but the 26 million young Americans entering the labor market in this decade. And third, the 8% tax credit for investment in machinery and equipment, which combined with planned revisions of depreciation allowances will spur our modernization, our growth, and our ability to compete abroad. Moreover, pleasant as it may be to bask in the warmth of recovery, let us not forget that we have suffered 3 recessions in the last 7 years. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining, by filling 3 basic gaps in our anti-recession protection. We need first, presidential standby authority, subject to congressional veto, to adjust personal income tax rates downward within a specified range and time, to slow down an economic decline before it has dragged us all down. Secondly, presidential standby authority upon a given rise in the rate of unemployment